Hey everyone. Hey everyone. That would be just me. Hey everyone. Hey everyone. That would be just me. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you a bit of a taste. Hi, please announce yourself on the chat if you may. This is an old song. I haven't entirely. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you a bit of a taste. Set everything up yet. Hi, please announce yourself on the chat if you may. This is okay. So I haven't entirely set this up yet. Ready for prime time, but as you can tell, I have this camera set up. At some point I'm going to get an extended cable, and that will allow you to see any keyboard work that I do. And we still have this camera closer to the middle. And anyways, as you see in the window here, this is a song called Pentelho Vermelho. The song is a vintage song. It is from 2005, and was written 2005. And then eventually we got it down to with real drums and my friend Brian Timpey playing bass on it. So let's see, Pro 53. It's a Prophet. I don't want to add anything. Let's see now. I gotta find it. So I'm going to set this up. And in the meantime, I'll talk about what I had sort of vaguely referred to as being able to piece together songs from disparate pieces of bits and pieces, and put it into a large complex piece. So. This, in fact, started life exactly like that. It was a bunch of smaller pieces of music that just were sitting around, and I didn't know what to do with in any given single instance, but I was able to find a solution by putting them together. And of course adjusting keys and whatnot to make it work. Let's connect all the proper instruments up, because there's a bunch of stuff that I haven't opened this in 4 years. And this particular version of the song was the version prior to Oliver Wakeman. I will come back and I'll play that version. I had reached out to Oliver and asked him if he was able to, because I've always been sort of embarrassed about the piano part that kicks in at the beginning. It's pretty pedestrian, let's just say, and it was originally it was going to be an organ part. So it was going to be an organ part a la the beginning of Carnival 9. And so I got it's something that a lot of people have mentioned, that it's their favorite part of the song just because it's so cheesy, that because I turned it into a piano and it sounds just like somebody sitting there with two fingers, dun, 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 like this kind of stuff. And so so I reached out to Oliver. Oliver put together something really nice, and then also did a anagram of Pentelho Vermelho, and turned and named his part of the piece O Sardinas d'Or, the gold sardine. And again, he recognized it was Portuguese, and Pentelho Vermelho is a I used to love to make my in-laws laugh because of my ignorance in Portuguese, and so sort of intentionally making mistakes, saying the wrong thing. Piranha versus picanha. Picanha is a cut of beef, or cul-de-sac. I translated to saco de cu, which is cu is pretty nasty, and so on and so forth. And so Pentelho Vermelho is like Pentelho is an ingrown pubic hair, and Vermelho is the color red, so it's implying that it's so irritated that it's actually becoming infected, which is nasty, but that's just my kind of twisted sense of humor. The part of the reason that I use the word Pentelho is because it's a annoying ingrown hair, is that a lot of these pieces were just sort of, as I said, sitting aside, kind of orphaned, and I needed to find something to do with them. And so it just sort of ended up that was a kind of an appropriate name for the song. So what do I have here? I've done this a few different times, which I've opened and closed. I think this is like version 4 from 2015. As I said, this is before Oliver provided me his piano track, and I also uses an awful lot of old guitars, old hardware. So I'm just going to go through. I want to make sure I capture some of the things that I should have swapped out a long time ago. Where is it? Missing Pro 40. That's the output, so it should be going to, and I just opened it up. Where is it? I opened up, in fact, OPX isn't even available. I opened up Prophet V3, and it's not showing, it's because it's an input, so it's not connected. This is an output. And it is, I think it's just I'll bring this down as I'm going through, and we'll talk about how this was assembled. So a lot of this is just a bunch of bits and pieces. There is a fair amount of stuff that, because I'll tend to write in certain keys, or I used to. Let's try this. Maybe not. Maybe it's a little bit too cheesy. And bell keys. Let's see that. That will work. I tend to sort of, especially now with a lot of these projects not working, I will go through and pick things out that just seem to work. for certain parts. So I also have this. This is probably the most amazing, and it sort of caused me to not go all the way and update my Arturia stuff. But there is a really sweet Oberheim OBX thing that is just awesome, and it is something that I've gotten so accustomed to that it is my go-to. So let's find out where our, and for instance, let me show you. Sonic Projects. Let's find a patch that's, yeah. So like that. So there's a bunch of stuff here that just rocks. And so I need to see where I'm using specific things. And I think that's that. Oh no, this is this. That's the second one. OBX Solo is going to be the first one. And I'm going to pick a nice sort of a lead for that. Okay, so it's really important to me to get things just right. So the sawtooth is from Absinthe Stereo. It gives us the really high, and of course it's just, the mix is completely off now. Let's go over and pull the mixes down. I think this is, oh, maybe that actually my mistake. That first OBX is got to be a it has to be an iconic thing that I'm using for this one. Let's go all down here. That has to be it. Is that right? Event input. Why is it showing event input? Okay. So like everybody else, I like to sort of pick things out and use things that are interesting. I've got two guitars. For the life of me, I don't remember what they are, but I also was a shitty engineer back then, because you can take a look at how everything's really clipped. Okay, the Absinthe is this thing. Which, listening to it right now is a little bit disappointing. I know that I picked a better sound than that. I must have picked a better sound than that. Browser. Absinthe Legacy. Synth Lead. And I had there, I had a little bit of, let's see that. I had a little bit of a portamento going. Aldebaran. Let's just give me a second here. Thing is that's all really cool and such, but it's got to be a little bit. I mean, that's the original. Let's go back to where we were. Synth 5, synth lead, classic mono lead. Huh. That sucks. That sucks. I can't find. I can't find my lead. Let's do this. No, that's gonna have to do for now. So, I had this like ridiculously heavy. Which got doubled up on the to this break, which and the chords are yes. So that's just an A extended to the like a pedal A over E with E, and then down a step, B, D, F sharp D. No, sorry, G. A little bit wonky this morning. A, E, G, D, F, C, A, F, C, A, D, G, and then a C with like a suspended B and E. And then it just goes up 3 steps. And the bass is pedaling in E. And then Brian starts to do his magic. And then it goes up. So originally I had this sort of, I had a drum track, anyway. Actually, I like that a lot. This is a problem. This should be fading out. Huh. Okay. Oh, it's a MIDI part. Oh. Okay. So I need to do the automation on the Hammond. So what I want is I've got to start here and quickly fade it down and then bring it back. Again, this is like an idea that I had just to do this today. I've been thinking about it for a couple days because I'm considering using this in the next piece. So I'm sorry for making this such a pain. God, okay. Okay, and because I shut it off. Is that why? That's not why. The pains of being a studio kind of guy. Let's worry about this in a minute here. This sucks. Is it even right? The right one? What the hell? Let's undo some stuff. Undo edit automation curve, undo edit automation, undo, 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 undo. Why did it get shut off? You know, this funny thing is I can see the keys moving. That sucks. All right, well, let's figure this one out. That sounds like the solution to my problem right there. So this also was a piece that was challenging from the perspective of how the drums got integrated. Drums were sort of because at the time I was brand new to remote recording, and my friend Heinz Schuler from work was playing drums on this thing. Played drums on a lot of the material on the first album, and it was a really solid drummer, big fan of like Jethro Tull and Yes and Genesis, and he threw in a bunch of really interesting stuff. I did not send him a tempo track, which would have been probably the most important thing to do here, since if you take a look, I mean, this is, you know, it's 180 beats per minute through most of this. 9/8, just a 4/4, and then to 7/4. And I wanted him to play a straight 4 over top of this, and not play the 3 at the end. But you know, because I wanted it to sort of have like a round sort of thing, have it come back and into, because after so many times through, after 28 bars, it would eventually lock up again. But I guess it must have been just a little bit, you know, like I do, I give people a lot of leeway on their parts. And I've even become a little bit more sort of reasonable about that, because it does tend to improve the material a lot. makes it quieter, and is probably it's very low. And this is my a lot of atonal stuff going on. Okay, so let's go back and really take a look at this. So this is there's a couple things here that are pretty interesting. So of all the pieces, there's actually three main pieces that are to this part. There's this thing. There's the guitar that you can So when we get into this next part, it's essentially the same. Kind of essentially the same thing as the part immediately before, except that I'm just sticking to one change, and then I'm changing the left hand pedal note. So bass line is doing this. Just like the opening. facilitates the next big change, which is a B diminished chord with an E at the bottom. So the E and the E sharp are big, huge. The E and the F are the big, huge dissonant chord there. And that is taken, that chord is from an old song that I worked on like 13 years earlier called I Have This Wicked Headache. And if you do a search for I Have This Wicked Headache online, you will find I Have This Wicked Headache, which was kind of one of those, it is a really weird, demented song that has a whole bunch of stuff just stuck together like with crazy glue. And it got released on the CHRW Jazz and Beyond album that I produced when I was working as a production engineer and production director at CHRW in London, Ontario, Canada. So this next part is in 5/4, and it is in. So the illusion is that it speeds up, because like even though the parts per minute, the beats per minute is 180 with a 4 denominator. With it being in 5/4, the bars being shorter, and the tempo being set to 128, it has the illusion of being faster. And so it starts off in 5/4, and then right when we go into the arpeggio part, so it starts off like it's supposed to be back and forth, and I'm not sure why in this particular project I don't have that very obviously mixed that way, but I can fix that. Anyways, it's like one guitar goes like on the 1, the other one comes in on the 2, and they're split wide apart so that you hear this like dun 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 back and forth. Let's check it out. It could very well be that. That's why. Why isn't it working? Why isn't it? That's the new arpeggiated guitar. That's why. There. It's not supposed to sound like that. It was a mistake. It's a screw up. There we go. Okay. Now you can hear it. So I guess there was some method to the madness here. So again, you start with like ideas. And this was all supposed to be building to this magnificent last sort of portion. And this is in totally a dissonant, like, the two guitar parts in the arpeggiated section are playing in, they're playing in six. They're playing 12/8 essentially. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But they're playing in this interval, so there's this dissonance. When one's playing the B, the other one's playing the D diminished. And then they both move up in unison 3 semitones. So when the first one's playing in D, the other one's playing in F diminished. And then when that first one goes up to F diminished, this one goes up to A flat diminished. And so that's how it ends. And then over top of all this madness is this just absolutely nutso lead guitar that I never went back and redid because it was... So the first entire album was recorded in the most unusual circumstances, like at least from the way I look at it. Although I'm sure during COVID time, the circumstances that are happening now with everybody recording in their houses and setting things up in the strangest of places is probably going to destroy this. But at the time, especially since I was at the same time just getting used to using Cubase, I had received my my gift copy, my copy in appreciation for working with Charlie Steinberg on Cubase 3 SX when I was with Microsoft. I was their Microsoft's chief liaison for developers at Cubase while I was on the C++ team. And so at the end of the project, the team, Charlie and everybody were particularly happy. This ended up being the groundbreaking Cubase version that ended up, I think it revolutionized desktop publishing because before that everybody was relying on Macs, and Macs were so god-awful expensive, and Apple was, sort of in dire straits. So when you started looking at Apple's market was primarily multimedia people doing video, doing desktop publishing, and doing audio recording. Pro Tools with Logic audio and high-end interfaces in studios. In fact, when I recorded I Have This Wicked Headache, that was what was being used, was a very early Macintosh running Logic Audio when we did the mastering and when we did the editing. We mastered on a Mac, on a Macintosh. And so when Cubase released 3SX, all of a sudden, one, it wasn't crashing left, right, and center. And two, it was actually doing everything that all the other packages were doing. Charlie was wickedly fantastic to work with. Really nice guy. And so I got the box. We moved into a new house. I set up in the spare bedroom, and my wife wanted to share that as an office as well as being a guest bedroom. So for whatever reason, I agreed to set up a MDF desk inside the closet of that room, closet with sliding doors. I put my computer in there. I put all my actual PC stuff went into the closet, and I had at the time I had a JX8P. That was my keyboard controller, and I also had an old wave station that I loved. It's like immensely, and and then a cat, a drum cat that was not working quite right, but it was good enough to be able to just bash out, basic beats. I kind of miss that now. I would have loved it to have been working fully, because it could have put together some really wicked, stuff coming into today. But instead, it's just it's gone. I sold it to somebody. I'm sure they fixed it. There's a few things wrong with it, particularly with I had to jury rig a power supply for it, and then I also the kick drum input and the hi-hat pedal input, which was just simply it used a sustain pedal, like a really, really elementary sort of sustain pedal as its hi-hat pedal. And then it was organized. It looked like a kind of a semicircle and with Mickey Mouse ears that represented the ride and crash symbol. And so it was really convenient, because it was this big, heavy as hell, and I had it on a drum stand. And so I wrote everything inside this while it was inside this closet, and then I started acquiring gear, and I acquired a Ampeg VL 1002, like a 150 watt guitar head, and a really amazing PV cabinet, like a really old one, super heavy duty, put in Celestion vintage 30s in there. It ruled. The Ampeg was designed by I want to say Jackson. Grover Jackson. Grover Jackson, I think it was. He was the big amp guru during the hair metal days. And I just got this thing for literally for a song. I paid like $150 or $200 for the head. I replaced the tubes. It had a power soak. And when I was recording all this, I stuck a microphone in, like for the original track, I stuck a microphone in front of one of the 12-inch drivers, and then just turned it up to get a decent tone. Well, when the lead came along, I was like, I really need to have a natural feedback, plus I was using an EBO. And so if you can hear it, it's just, you can hear this, it's just insane. Come on. What's going on? I got the wrong one up. Okay. So, this is the and in order to hear this, I didn't have a proper set of headphones. So there it is. So I just cranked up the monitors and went full bore, especially on this. And it was 10 or 11 o'clock at night. My family were in Brazil. My wife's father was ailing, so she was there. Oh no, she went this was just a visit. This was before she went for a month. So I did all the loud stuff during when she was gone with my son. And this is just standing in the room, the EBO, a ton of delay, and just doing this. Like, let's say that was the amp. I'm standing that far away, and I'm just moving my body around and using the EBO. And it just, that is probably my greatest moment of satisfaction. To be able to have done that and get away with it. Now I'm gonna use, just because I'm here already, This is my all-purpose mastering. I tend to use this. I really like this very old school tube master, and let's go back and listen to that section so you can hear everything mixes together. We've got this that sort of high energy percussion stuff. And then what that happens is that just breaks and goes immediately into the next tune, which is like decidedly a little poppier. So, why do I bring up this old song? I'm just going to play the beginning again. So, total cheese. But I had written it with the intention of being this. Still cheese, but and it's in 7. Anyway, why do I bring all this stuff up? Well, one, because there's an awful lot of material that, even though it was written, like the original stems were written years ago, like we're talking years and years and years ago, at the time you're sitting down and you're listening to it and you're going, oh God, I can't do anything with this. This is just terrible. Put it away, save it, archive it, because you never know. You come back to it sometime in the future and you'll say, holy cow, this is really good. Why the hell couldn't I come up with anything at the time? And this in particular was something that I just couldn't find anything with, and then all of a sudden it worked so well for this. Another thing that I sort of started working on over the last, I don't know, 10, 12 years was this thing. It's in 4, but because it's got this sort of like a herky-jerky sort of feel to it, it's with the syncopation, it's like, wow, this is really cool. It doesn't, I can do it. I just haven't practiced it. But it just doesn't. It just seems a little bit too conventional to just modulate up to the B. So I was always looking for something that would go. So you can always. That's been sitting around for a long time. I don't even need to bring up the file or the project in which I started working on that, because it's something I knew that would be a winner as long as I could find the transition to go to something else or what it would go well with. So you keep stuff around, and then eventually, before you know it, you start putting things together, and you end up with what you consider to be. I mean, I consider Pentelho Vermelho to be a pretty big win in terms of both. It's a pretty cool rock song from a compositional standpoint. Being able to take some of these pieces like this organ. This was originally written. That was written on the keyboard, and then to be able to and then translate it into like a guitar line. I had a mighty struggle trying to play that just until even just like when I did this remix, and then again in 2016. So I started saying, well, just hanging on the A at the end of it and letting the keyboard complete the riff. But like now it's like, if I could just remember like and long enough to play it correctly. Anyway, just the anxiety of trying to make sure I catch the next chord. Like that. The anxiety sometimes, performance anxiety, when the red light comes on, makes it really difficult. So, what else? The piece that is now known as Foucault's Pendulum was originally a lovely little ditty called Hate Fuck, or HTFK. It was written in 1993. I was still at school. I was finishing up my comp sci degree, and at my school there was a recording industry arts program, and I got to know some of these guys that were in the program from working with them at the pub. And one of the guys needed a song to do for the end of year project, and so I walked in and said, "I've got this thing. If you're interested in recording me, I could use it as a demo tape." And he agreed, and we brought in a drummer, and it was released on the MIA Music Industry Arts Fanshawe College album. And of course he changed it a little bit, changed stuff around. He was more of an electronic music guy, so it really sort of worked its way back towards less of a rock tune, more of an electronic music thing. But it was still like, and again, it's like some of the most progressive stuff he could do doesn't need to be in all these like really crazy time signatures. That one was in 4/4, but all the accents were syncopated against the beat. So you could literally have AC/DC drummer come in, sit down, and just play a 4 against it, and everybody else be playing in syncopation against the 4 count, it wouldn't be great, but it would work. So that piece became the building block for the rest of everything that came after it. That's now known as Foucault's Pendulum, which is the one of the 2 big huge pieces on the album. As far as how Pentelho Vermelho is sort of working into this is I've been working on this new song, and I've tried several different things to do, and it hasn't sort of panned out the way that I've wanted it to, or that I've hoped for it to do. So I'm revisiting some old songs and revisiting stems just to see if I've got additional stimulus for the gray matter to be able to come up with ideas that will go forward. I've also had interesting conversation with Ryo Okamoto from Spock's Beard, and it sounds like he would be interested in doing something with that song that I've got this big idea for. So that's coming up in the future. But I need to sort of build out the framework for it. I know what I want to do conceptually in my head. Finding the music that all fits in the right way is the challenge. So this is why I chose this particular topic today to discuss. And again, I mean, I'm working on the new album, but there's still like a back catalog of stuff, and I've got a 5 terabyte drive full of like half full of all sorts of little stems and ideas and things that I've been working on over like many years. I've got them archived and backed up in flash drives and other hard drives that are sitting aside in SSDs and everything, but it's I keep everything because I did lose my computer. Crashed when I was in Seattle before I got married. I had this wicked gentle giant piece that sort of was jumping around all over the place, kind of like a Carrie Minier type part, and I was working on it. It was just I was like giddy with excitement because it was really good, and then my drive crashed and I lost it, and I didn't have backups, and I'm kicking myself perpetually. What? I'm online, buddy. What do you need? You can stick your face in. Anyway, I gotta go. Thanks a lot for joining me today, and we will. I hope to see you again next week. Stay safe. Don't let yourself get fooled into complacency. That this illness that's going around is being sort of killed off by the summer heat. Certainly doesn't seem to be, as we've surpassed our daily amounts of infections and hospitalizations from April, which was pretty bad already at the time. But keep yourself safe. Wear whatever protective gear that you need to. Utilize, Instacart, DoorDash to avoid going out if at all possible. And if you do have to go out in public, please take care of yourself. And we will see you again next week. Thanks again for joining, and have a great week. See you soon.